Good morning, Chase and the Equitarians. Hope everybody's having a good morning. Last week, Chase was doing a call, and he was having people call in and do their script for booking appointments for teleleads and whatnot. I tried calling in, but I couldn't get a signal. So I wanted to go over my script real quick, and then from there, what I want to do is kind of break the script down and identify things that are called cognitive biases. They're kind of pre-programmed ways that we think and ways we make decisions about things, and they're pretty much totally subconscious. And the better you understand the way people think, the way they perceive things, the way they hear things, the better you can understand them and the better you can influence the way you want things to go. And which works out pretty much perfectly with our line of work, because we do deal with sales and we do deal with people. So without making this call too long, let's just jump into it. Okay, so here's my script I use for booking appointments for teleleads. I pretty much stole this off the internet somewhere and then revised it to suit my particular needs. And you can do the same thing. So what I do is when I get a telelead, I usually try to make the call when the people ask, if they want 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, whatever. And as we all know from working teleleads, whether they answer or not is a hit and miss. And if they don't, I'll just go knock the door. But I try to book the appointment over the phone. So we want to remind the customer that they asked us to call. We must very quickly remind them why we're calling and who we are. And this can easily be done by, again, calling at the appointed time. Use their first name from the lead info as the first word when you answer the phone. So when I call, somebody answers, I usually say, hello, is this Sally or William or whatever their name is? And I say, this is Tom with Senior Benefits. The reason I'm calling is that you were interested in some information about our final expense program. Do you remember that? And I usually wait for a response. And I said, you said your favorite color was blue or purple or plaid or clear or whatever their favorite color was. And I'll pause. And most of the time you're going to get a yes. And what you have to do at that point, as with what we're going to go through with this whole little speech here, is you immediately have to take control of the call. If they start asking questions, now it becomes a sale over the phone. And now they've taken control. You're the one calling them, and it's very easy for them just to hang up on you. So you always want to maintain control of the call, and we're going to go over some nuances and tricks and whatever, how to do that. So once I get a yes out of them, I immediately say, great, I'm the specialist assigned to your case, and I'll be in your particular city tomorrow delivering benefits packages. So then what I do is I offer them 2 time slots. I'm letting them make a decision, but I'm giving them the choices that I want them to choose from. So I'm staying in control, and although they feel they're in control, they're answering questions and giving answers that I've offered to them. So I usually say, I have several deliveries to do in your zip code tomorrow, whatever the zip code may be. I have an opening from 11 to 12, or my 3 o'clock just rescheduled. Is that better for you? So if you have to go tomorrow or the following day, don't offer the same time slots. Change it up. That way it makes you appear a little more busy. Wait for their response. And then, again, immediately take control. Otherwise, the questions will start rolling in, and it can just spiral any direction from there. So then what I say is, great, I've got you down for 3 to 3:30 tomorrow, and your address is still, and I verify their address, and fantastic. I'll make it quick as possible, as I have many families to see tomorrow. Now, what I would like you to do is write down any questions that you can think of, and I'll answer them for you when I get there. And that's a side note, that's one thing I do to keep them from asking questions now, is I tell them to write down their questions, and I promise them that I'll cover them when I get there. I also say, if you know anyone that may have some questions about my visit to you and the benefits package I'm delivering, please feel free to invite them. Again, thank you, Sally. And then I go, oh, you know what? I'll be stopping by Starbucks. Would you like anything? And I'll usually get a polite no, and then I'll usually argue with them a little bit, saying, oh, that's a polite way of saying yes. Well, you want a Frappuccino, don't you? And 9 times out of 10, they'll usually buckle and go, oh, yeah, Frappuccino, that's the thing with the caramel and the whipped cream. Yeah, I'm already fat enough. Now I want something else, but yeah, I'll take it. So you don't have to offer Starbucks, whatever it is, something to offer them. And what I have found from doing this is that my response rate is very high. As we all know, when we're working direct mail leads, if we're booking appointments from the door, you're lucky if 40% of your appointments actually show up. And if your response rate is better than that, well, then you're better than me, because mine's about 40-50%. Doing this method, I tend to find about 80 to 90% of my appointments are there, and they are there waiting for their Frappuccino. Does that mean I've ever been stood up? Of course I have, and I usually just leave a melted Frappuccino at their doorstep with my card leaning against it. And then sometimes I get a call back. But by offering them something, I find that now they're a little more anxious for me to get there. And again, we'll go into the thought process and all this about this in a moment. So then I say, awesome, again, my name is Tom, and I'll see you at 3:30 tomorrow, 3 to 3:30 tomorrow with Starbucks in hand. Click, then I hang up. I keep the call at a maximum of about a minute and a half, and this whole script is only about 6 sentences. That's it. So I can book appointments real quick. I can spend, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and book appointments for, a couple days, assuming that people are going to answer the phone and they're receptive, which most are. Okay, so that's my script, and then what we're going to do is we're going to dissect this script using things called cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are pre-programmed ways that we think, the way we see things, the way we view things, the way we use our emotions to make decisions. And the vast, vast majority of people have no clue they're using preset, pre-trained thought processes to make their decisions on things, whether they be justified, unjustified, from past experience. Our life is, up to this point, is all based on experiences and influence that we've already seen. So there's very few new, fresh thoughts out in the world. They're basically just recycled, and we've taken them and molded them to fit our own thinking process. So in the basic world of cognitive biases, there's 25 of them. You can do deeper, research into psychology and find a bunch of different types, and there's actually hundreds. But the main basic ones are 25. These are the ones your average idiot like me can understand and learn how to work and appreciate and use to our advantage. So I'm not going to go through all 25 because that would take forever, but what I am going to do is break down the ones that I have found that fit my little minute-and-a-half script here. So the very first one, number one, is called the reward-punishment super-response tendency. That is the power that incentives and disincentives have on the actions of others cannot be overstated. This is obvious, but so many people don't understand how important incentives are in shaping people's minds. Okay? So here in my little script, I have offered to bring them a Starbucks. Their natural tendency is going to be to refuse it, just to be polite because their mom taught and brought them up well. But then when they accept it, now they naturally automatically feel that now they owe me something. So it's a very powerful position for me to be in, because now they're expecting me. They're expecting me to bring them something, and they go, well, all I need to do to get this Frappuccino is just meet with this guy for a few minutes because he's obviously busy delivering benefits packages, and I get a free Starbucks out of it. Okay? So I'm already conditioning their brain to accept the fact that I'm coming and to receive me as a guest and to receive my gift. Okay? So that's the first one. We're just going to zip through this quick, otherwise this call will go on forever. All right. This bias number 2. So I'm reading these in chronological order as they come up. Bias number 2, the liking-loving tendency. Human beings ignore the faults and flaws of other people, products, or companies if there is love, liking, or admiration for them. And we see this in sports, we see this in religion, we see this in politics. Your dad was a Chevy guy, so you automatically hate Fords, and you hate Fords for the rest of your life for no particular reason other than your dad liked them and you were programmed and conditioned to like them. Or you were a rebellious kid and now you love Fords and hate Chevys. Whatever. You get my point. So, again, in the basics of sales, if If they like you, they will trust you. If they trust you, they will buy from you, okay? So I'm already coming across as a pretty nice guy. I'm not talking to them, like they're stupid. I am acting like I'm a little busy. I'm talking a little quick because I have a lot to do. But I tend to be a very likable person. I don't come across as an arrogant jerk. So I have, as you know, on the phone, we've only got a couple seconds to establish that. Even at the door when we're knocking, we've only got like 5 seconds to make an impression. If they don't like us in the first 5 seconds, door slam in the nose. And none of us want that, okay, obviously. So that's the liking, loving tendency. Let's go to the next one. All right, the next one is called, it's bias number 6, curiosity tendency. Curiosity tendency has been one of the main drivers in human progress throughout history. The amount of curiosity in the human species is much more than any other mammal species, okay, which is, again, obvious, like the monkeys or whatever. So I haven't given them really any details at all over the phone. I said, hey, you requested a benefits package. I'm coming out to deliver it. I'm piquing their curiosity. I've got many families to see today. I'm very busy. So obviously there's a lot of people who want it. Now they're curious. What is this information? When the person called me on the phone to book the appointment, they really didn't tell me anything. I'm curious about what this information is, how it affects me, and how it will help my family. Okay, moving on. Bias number 7. It's called the Kantian fairness tendency. So this one says, life isn't fair, but many can't accept this. Tolerating a little unfairness should be okay if it means a greater fairness for all. A basic example of Kantian fairness is letting in other drivers through on the street, knowing they will reciprocate in the future. Okay, so it's a reciprocation type thing, fairness. If you do something nice, you kind of just assume that somebody's going to be nice to you. Like when you hold the door open for somebody, you just kind of assume that they're going to say thank you. Oftentimes people don't see it that way. Sometimes they just think it's implied, or they're just asses. However, whatever works out. But typically when you do, you reach your hand out to shake somebody's hand. You just assume they're going to reach their hand back out and reciprocate what they're doing. Okay? So here in my little script, when I'm on the phone, again, this one kind of goes back to the Starbucks. I'm offering them something. So I will naturally assume that they're going to be receptive of it and give me, the 20, 30 minutes I need to go through my spiel and hopefully write them a policy. Okay? So the biases work both ways. So the more of these that you can control, the more smooth flowing your presentation and your sale and your appointment setting all go, and keep it all working in your favor. The next bias is bias number 7. It kind of goes along with the Kantian tendency one. It's called the reciprocation tendency. Again, you put something out there, you naturally expect something to come back. Okay? So when I'm going to these people's houses, I tell them, write down your questions. So what they're going to do is they're going to write down their questions. And almost 100% of the time, I get people who have written their questions down. And it's also, again, one way for me to keep from staying on the phone and answering endless amounts of questions, is I have them write them down, and then they have time to think about it, and their questions delve deeper into more questions. So now they're thinking, I'm writing down these questions because he told me to. I expect him to answer them for me. So now it's not just the annoying insurance guy showing up at the door, bribing them with a Frappuccino. Now they're expecting something out of me. Their likelihood that they're going to be there and be receptive to what I have to say is now greatly increased. Reciprocation. All right? And also, if I sit there and answer their questions, I expect them to get a policy. So that's just my side of it. Okay, next one. Bias number 15, social proof tendency. Social proof tendency is an automatic tendency to think and act as others think and act around you, your peers, your arena in an area that you believe in and people that you trust. So again, in my little script here, I've pointed out specifically that I have a lot of families to see. I'm busy, okay? So again, their curiosity is piqued, and just a simple social proof tendency that, wow, If a lot of other people are requesting this information, I'm not the only one, and this guy's taking out his time to go see these people individually, it must be important. I want to know what he has to say. I want to know what this is about. I have a friend who got insurance this way, and I'm curious, and I want to know, I want to do what they did. They seem to be happy and satisfied with their product and their policy and the insurance guy. I want the same thing. And again, it just, whether you're a trendsetter, whether you're a follower, whether you wear all the name brands, again, if you think about these things and just break them down, not just in sales, but in your average normal life, about how you think, how people respond to you, you can start seeing patterns. What I did was I went on Google and just typed in 25 cognitive biases under the images section. And they're all here, and I've got them all pinned up on my wall. So when I'm in my office, I can see these. When I'm on the phone, when I'm thinking about things, when I'm working, I look up and I gaze at these, and while I'm on a conversation, I try to identify ones that I'm having or that I'm experiencing while I'm in the conversation to help me kind of control the conversation and whatnot. That's just what I do. All right, the next one. Bias number 21, senescence misinfluence tendency. As we age, there is a natural loss of certain skills and abilities. Continuous thinking and learning helps to slow the decay, the natural decay of our body, the natural breakdown of our memory. So in the very first sentence, I asked them, do you remember? Do you remember booking this appointment? You said your favorite color was purple. Okay, because remember, as we know, you can go knock on the door with a direct mail lead in hand with these people's writing all over it that they just mailed in 2 weeks ago, and they're looking at you like you're crazy. I never sent that in. Is this your writing? Yeah, that's my writing, but I never sent that in. We've all heard it working leads, okay? Now, remember, these seniors are getting blasted by telemarketers all day long. We are certainly not the only ones calling them, and oftentimes they'll forget. Okay, so we have to take that into consideration. Not all the time are they lying, sometimes they are, but take that into consideration, and again, use these things for your advantage. If you can expect their answer, you already know how to respond, and you're better prepared. All right, and the last one we're going to go over is cognitive bias number 22. It's called the authority misinfluence tendency. Following orders just because somebody says so. So living in dominant hierarchies, as he does, man was born mostly to follow leaders with only a few people doing the leading, okay? That's why there's not one employee and 40 bosses. It doesn't work that way. So here what I've done in my little script is I've identified myself as the specialist assigned to your case. I don't say, hey, I'm the insurance guy coming by to sell you a policy. See, I've automatically established even at a minutia level, a very, very small level of authority. And most people will naturally tend to follow a leader. If you have a plane crash and we'll just assume everybody survived, there's naturally going to be a leader who's going to take over. Let's march this way, let's go this way. And sometimes you get two leaders, they butt heads, half the people go one way, half the people go another, and now you have a plot for a boring movie. But again, you are the professional. You are the licensed agent. They are not. They are the layman. Even if they tell you they understand the difference between term and whole life, and they tell you that they have a whole term policy, they have no clue what they're talking about in most cases, okay? So you don't need to be an arrogant jerk, but again, even a very small, low level of authority, people will tend to follow, okay? So those are the only ones I'm going to go over today. But again, if we look at this, in this very, very small script I have here for booking an appointment, I've identified 8 potential cognitive biases in a matter of about a 4-sentence, 5-sentence script, okay? So if you take that, now imagine there's 25 of them. Now imagine that with an entire conversation. Imagine that with your presentation. Imagine that with a conversation with your wife or your kids or your mechanic or an entire day. How many of these biases people use instinctively without even knowing it, to make their decisions, to make their choices, to decide what they're going to do. And some of it is completely unfounded. And it's just simply based on something they were told to like. And they've just always done it that way. Okay? So, again, if you can identify these things before they come out of the people's mouth, it's a lot easier to control it. Okay? So, there's a gentleman by the name of Charlie Munger. He is the business partner of a guy named Warren Buffett. I'm sure we've all heard of. Everybody's heard of Warren Buffett, but very few people have heard of his business partner. He is a very, very obviously successful person. Also a very intelligent guy. If you go on to YouTube, type in Charlie Munger, M-U-N-G-E-R, you'll see the very first thing that pops up. It's a speech he did called The Power of Human Misjudgment, where he takes all 25 of these biases and he breaks them down to the small level. It was a speech he did at Harvard University back in 1995. It's an hour and 15 minutes long. Extremely boring. There's not even video. You're just looking at a picture of him staring at you with his crazy eye. And he just rambles on, but it's brilliant. I've listened to it probably 50 times. And it literally has changed and reprogrammed the way I used to think. So I'm a little more enlightened now. Does that make me better than anybody? Maybe a little bit, but for the most part, no. But I can use these things in my sales, my daily sales, my interactions with people, and it makes it a lot easier. And what you'll find is once you get better at these skills and good at them and master them, if you take somebody out in the field training, your trainee is going to be baffled because they're going to say, every door you go into, these people just lay down. They do whatever you tell them to do. I spent all this time learning how to overcome objections, and you don't seem to get any. And you can say, that's right. Pay attention. Let's stop talking. Take some notes. Let's go knock on the next door. Let's go to Starbucks first. And when you get in there, again, I'm just messing around with being arrogant, but what you'll find is your objections tend to just vanish. People tend to just go get their checkbook. You find that your closing ratio increases dramatically. You're able to get in way more doors, speak to more people. We know this is a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more sales you're going to make. Now, when all those factors are building at the same time, that's how you see people on the leaderboard at 20 grand halfway through the month. Okay, and you're trying to figure out, why am I still at 1,800 on the 18th? And these guys are 18,000 on the 18th. Just simple, small techniques that they use. It's not that these people are better than you. They just kind of figured this out faster than you did. All right? Does that mean you can't figure it out? Absolutely not. Learn it. It's very simple. All this information is right here. In Charlie Munger's hour and 15-minute boring speech, he references a book called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini, C-I-A-L-D-I-N-I. And Dr. Cialdini actually only covers about, I think it's 3 of the out of the 25 cognitive biases and breaks them down. And he uses a lot of real-life examples, most of his personal ones. Fantastic book to read. It's an easy read. Even if you skip to every other paragraph and not even read every one of them, you'll still get about 90% of what the book has to offer because there's a lot of examples and you don't need to read every single example. So just kind of skim through the book, go through it, pull out what, get the nuggets. But all in all, everything I just covered here, it all boils down to one thing, one word. And that word is control. Okay? Control. Just imagine it in your head in capital letters with a bold and some kooky font. Okay? Control. It's about controlling the sale. If you're not controlling the sale, you are the one being sold. All right? So, how do we control the sale? Okay? It's the quintessential skill in sales, if you think about it. If you're not controlling the sale, you will not make the sale. I mean, there's always the random chance. If you go knocking up doors you'll make a sale. If I run into the woods and just start opening fire and shooting gun and shoot 1,000,000 bullets, eventually I'll hit a deer and I'll be able to eat. But I've wasted, 999,999 bullets. I'd rather not do that. Okay, I'd rather know where to go, have the right gun, have the right skills, and all the other stuff about deer hunting that I don't know about. So the key skill in control is maintaining control while allowing the other person to think that they're in control. Okay, that sounds horribly manipulative, and you are 100% correct. It is 100% manipulation. Now, is it manipulation to take advantage of somebody? No. It's manipulation or influence that you're going to use to help guide them to go exactly where you want them to go. And the end result is that their family is protected. They've got a policy from you. You're going to get paid. You're going to feed your family, and you're going to go put a down payment on a new bass boat. So we're going to use these things to control a situation by influencing them. Okay, and I know I'm repeating this a lot, but they're very basic steps. It's nothing, there's no abstract concepts here. It's very simple, okay? And to do these things, we're going to use, little nuances like Joe Chacho was talking about recently, voice inflection, the highs, the lows, strategic pauses, your posturing, body language, all those types of things. We're going to use questions. I did one of these little talk things before on the power of asking questions. I do most of my sales control with questions. I'm the one asking the questions. They're the ones answering. I've got 2 appointments tomorrow, one at 10, and I just had a cancellation at 3:30. Which one is best for you? Okay, although 90% of that was a statement, I ended it as a question. I gave them their choices. They chose from the choices I gave them. It gives the appearance and the illusion that they're making all the decisions here. It's like when we quote somebody. I usually give people 3 quotes. I usually give them a 50, a 60, and a 70, something in those ranges. And I go, which best fits into your budget today? What's the most that's easily affordable to you? Again, I'm giving them their options. They choose one. And if I have to alter from there, then I will. But typically, they're going to pick one. They'll usually pick the middle one. If your average sale is $35, you're quoting too low. Stop quoting 30, 40, and 50. Start quoting 40, 50, and 60. And what you'll find is people start picking the one in the middle. And if you want to raise your level from there, start quoting a 50, a 60, and a 70. Obviously, you want to find something that's affordable and they're going to make their payments on for at least a year. But what you'll find is you offer them the solution, they will pick one. Basic, simple, okay? And aside from questions, we try to become the masters of empathy, the feel, felt, found. Ma'am, I understand how you feel. I spoke with people every single day who have felt the exact same way. Here's what we have found. Okay, now I'm identifying them. I'm identifying their particular needs, wants, and their particular issue. Empathy, okay? Listening. Listen to what they say. If you're rambling on endlessly like I'm doing on this call, obviously because nobody's asking any questions and I'm asking you any questions, you're just going to completely tidal wave them with insurance jargon and information. They're going to remember tomorrow. They're going to remember about 5% of what you just said. 5%, maybe if they're lucky. Okay, remember the senescence bias. They're going to forget things. All right. Remember, these people have forgot more than you will ever know. So don't add to that. Just give them enough. Listen to what they say, ask them questions, get responses, get feedback. They're far more likely to remember things that they have said versus things that you have said, okay? All those things combined equal influence. And we can master influence. We can master how people think. We can master how their thought process will go as well as our own by doing all these things, maintaining control. Okay, and you can use influence to control virtually any situation. I mean, hostage negotiation to, keeping your kids from sticking their dirty fingers in their mouth. whatever, however you want to do it, whether it's beatings, whether it's rewards, whether it's incentives, whatever it is, use those things, use influence to control your world around you, how people respond to you, how you respond to people. And what you'll find is, one, your life will be a lot more stress-free, a lot less stress. Let me rephrase the way I said that. And what you'll find is you're going to get your way a lot more. That's always nice. And then you can always reciprocate these things to other people. If you find somebody who's just completely lost in cognitive biases, there's another one, the last one, number 25, is called the Lollapalooza effect. That's where people have a whole bunch of cognitive biases just doing a cage death match all at the same time. And these people, they have just no clue what they're thinking. They have no control over their thought process. They're acting just completely out of emotion. And they just don't know. That's why I always say it's impossible to argue with a 3-year-old. They lack the sense, they lack the maturity to have a reasonable conversation and act appropriately, okay? So, again, identify these things, take a step back, and just use them. But you don't have to even do it. If you don't want to do it in sales, that's fine. Start with something else, how you interact with your kids, your mechanic, your wife, your mailman, whatever, okay? And lastly, just, master these things, and what you'll find is that your sales will increase, your objections will decrease, more people will show up to their appointments, they'll be more receptive. You don't have to offer everybody a Starbucks. That's just what I do. Where I work, there's so many Starbucks, and Starbucks have their own Starbucks. There's that many. So it's very convenient. I'm going there anyway, and now I get to write it all off of my taxes. So do I benefit from it? Yeah, duh. So offer them something, wherever you live, whether, it's an Aircorn or whatever. I don't know where you live. Do whatever you want. Just figure out a way to bring them something. The company I used to work for, or used to represent, they had got the approval, at least in California, to give lottery tickets as an incentive for referrals. So in California, we can, if we get a referral, once the policy is approved, we can legally give the referee a $25 referral fee. That's the maximum we could give. Well, after some research, they said, yeah, you can give a lottery ticket, but you can't give it to them based solely on them giving you a referral. You have to offer it to everybody. So what a lot of us would do is we'd load up with lottery tickets in the morning. And when we go out and we'd make a sale, we say, hey, I've got a stack of lottery tickets here. For every referral that you give me, I'll give you a lottery ticket. And there are some agents who make their living off of lottery tickets. They spend $10, and out of that, if they get 10 referrals and one referral turns into a sale and it's a $12 sale, they've made their money back on those lottery tickets 10 times over. It's another sale, it's more production, it's more money. And now if you start doing that exponentially daily, those numbers add up, even if it's a little tiny sale, okay? So again, an incentive, reciprocation, a reward. I'm offering them, and now I'm getting more referrals. And I'm really not doing anything different other than handing them something, okay? So use these things. What I'll do is I'll email Chase with the link to that Charlie Munger speech and the name of that book. So if anybody wants more info on it, just email Chase. And that is all I've got. I'm done.